Hello, my name is Alana Heim of Prosperity Alignment, and today in this video, I want to speak to you about preparing and strategy. There's so much going on in the world. There are so many challenges. We just were in the gate 28. The sun was just there over this last week, where sometimes there can be challenges and struggles that come up. Now the sun's in the gate 44, and it's really going to encourage us to go deeper into our past, explore the patterns that are there that are having us want to shift in a different way, grow, evolve, so that we're not repeating the pattern. We're actually not repeating the past. And we've evolved and grown so much that whatever the fear might be that you're going to get stuck in that pattern or repeat the past, it's just not true. A lot of times when we think about preparing, we think about, okay, let's make a plan, let's put it in action, and everything's going to go great. But plans need time, and plans don't always happen the way we want. People can be involved in our plans and can shift the dynamic and the outcome more than we want. And so I just wanted to talk to you about this aspect of planning. My husband and I were having this conversation where he brought up when he was working, he would always have this saying where your lack of planning doesn't constitute an emergency on my side, like on my part. Meaning, like, if I'm putting you in a position that you now have to react more in an emergency fashion because I didn't plan correctly, that's not fair. And that doesn't mean that you actually have to fall into that type of pressure and chaotic energy. My point is that where we are today in the world, that's exactly what's going on. There's a lot of lack of planning, and not with the intent to have poor planning. I mean, plans just don't always work out the way they're meant to. And even with our governments and the state of affairs that are going on in the world, there's lots of plans in play. And guess what? They're just not working. And most of all, they're not necessarily here for you, for who you are. And only you know who you are. Only you know what plan is going to work. And so I gently want to encourage you and every single one of us to start to recognize when we are out of alignment with who we are and with the plan that we want to have happen, and we're not so adaptable and in flow with what is possible. It's okay. We cannot put those demands on somebody else and expect for them to come back around and have to prepare for this emergency. So the world feels like it's in an emergency. That doesn't mean that you have to do the same thing. I'm here with my chickens today, and in the backyard, it's actually a really beautiful day, a very warm fall day. So happy fall, happy Halloween. And I'm with my chickens, and they're all kind of hanging out back here. And they're actually quiet, but I can hear my dog in the background. So we've got the bees. We've been working, and I say we, it really wasn't me, it was my husband, have been working on this plan, right? Putting this in play for what we want to create in our life. We are slowly getting there. We are projectors. So there's only so much that we can actually achieve and get done with the energy that we hold, the energy that we have. But there was some planning that took place, and there was some time that was needed. There was energy that was needed. And if I tried to rush my husband and putting together and coming up with this, and let's say we didn't quite have the plan and suddenly it was feeling like an emergency on him, he wouldn't have to accept that. He wouldn't have to choose to react to whatever I'm feeling needs to be done. It's a team effort, but we also have to communicate what those needs are. And this comes to the strategy piece. Why it's so imperative, more than ever, as we continue to embark on this journey of rebirthing a society, right? Rebirthing everything that we know right now. You have to honor yourself, meaning you have to follow your strategy, your authority. You have to listen to your intuition. You've got to just follow that feeling, whatever it is. So let's talk about strategy as it relates to your human design. If you are a manifester, you have to let people know what you're doing. And there is such a power that is within you to be able to just speak up and say what needs to be done. However, if at any point in your life when you would tell people what you were going to do and they shut you down, you learned to stop telling people. Why this is important is because when you are in your creative flow and you are following what you are here to do, you've got to really just act on it. We need you to be able to follow this strategy, to be able to know when the timing and the flow is there for you to just go take action. But for your loved ones or the people who are going to be involved, who need to know what you're up to, you've got to share with them, right? Like, you've got to let them know. And here's the thing, you're not asking, you are telling. And that's very different and very not necessarily what people are used to. But you've got to just listen to that. So the way it's going to work with your authority, depending on how you're here to make that decision, right? If you're emotional, you've got to give yourself some time to really feel that creative flow, to be confirming that, yes, this is the time, this is what I want to do at the top of the wave and at the bottom of the wave. And when you have that clear knowing and you just feel it inside and it feels like, yes, this is what I'm going to do, that's when you're going to go take action and tell people what you're doing. If you are a pure generator, you have to respond to anything that shows up outside of you. So in the world as it is right now, there's a lot of stimulus. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of information, things that you get to respond to. I highly encourage you to please pause and listen from within. Listen from within your sacral. Listen to that yes-no response, the or the and be very clear on what that is. What does that feel like? What does that sound like when you respond with and That's you being in your truth, which resides in your body, not your head. And I have many clients who have splits in their chart who are generator types. You can have splits even as a non-generator. But if you have any sort of energy where you're conditioned to be up in your head rather than in your physical body, more than ever, right now, in this world as it's evolving, you have to learn to drop in and listen to that response. Get out of your head. It will not serve you in the times to come. It will not be here to support you. It will not honor who you are. You've got to listen to the sacral. So when you have that opportunity to respond, you also need to follow the authority. If you're a sacral being, if you're more splenic, you're going to know right in the moment. You've got to learn to trust that. No matter what the heck is going on in the world, you've got to trust that instinct. You've got to listen. And if you're popping into your head and you're starting to doubt yourself or question things, and what about the money and what about this, plain and simple, listen to that initial gut reaction. If you don't know how to do that, now is the time, more than ever, to tune in. Use the yes-no questions, reword questions to be yes-no, ask your sacral. And if it responds or listen, and listen dearly and clearly, and just tune in. If you're more emotional with that authority, you've got to do the same thing as I told the manifestors. You've got to have the same resounding at the top of the wave and at the bottom. You've got to give yourself time. Ask the question and maybe come back tomorrow. Ask it again. Make sure you've given yourself plenty of time to feel what your truth is, to allow for it. Now, we're beginning to manifest at lightning speed. Things are going to happen. The change, evolution, everything's going to happen so much faster. Now is your time to really tune in and get clear, especially if you have some of the left brain awareness in your primary health system in the third quadrant, which is all about perspective. If you don't know what that is, more and more I'm diving into it with clients and doing readings on that. I highly encourage you to learn how you operate, because if you are left brain, you really need to be crystal clear on what you want. If you're more right brain, you just need to be more general and be in flow and allow and receive. When you know what you're here to manifest and you're emotional and it shows up, you're going to be pretty clear. You're going to be able to actually say, yes, this is what I want, so much faster because you already knew. You already asked for it, and here it is. So the more that you really do understand what you want, and you keep that intention and hold to it and put it out into the universe, when it shows up as an emotional being, you're not going to have to wait as long. You're just going to know. So let me move into the manifesting generator, which is a blend of those two types that I just spoke about, the manifester and the generator. So the piece that I often see manifesting generators get stuck on is when you think you're the manifester first, right? Manifesting generator. No, it's actually reverse. You're the generator first. You have to do everything I said to the generators. You have to wait to respond to something that shows up in your reality. You have to be able to tune in and listen to your sacral, yes or no, as an aha or And when you sit with what it is that you want, and you've had time to really envision, well, what could this be and what does this look like? You might need some time to integrate. If you're a 3420 manifesting generator, you're going to need time to integrate anyway if you're an emotional authority. You really need to be able to allow for yourself to feel and get clear on what it is you want to help you make your decision following your authority. And then when you know, yes, you go tell somebody who's going to be a part of whatever choice or decision you made. If they're going to be affected, you need to share that with them. So really just going to that manifester piece, where at that moment, the ball is rolling. The momentum is there. There is no stopping you. There is no second guessing yourself at this point. There is no more listening to the peanut gallery and them telling you that they don't think you should do it and trying to talk you off the ledge. There is no ledge for you at that point. You know this is what you're here to do. So you've got to do that. You've got to just move forward. So it's the same thing. You are telling, you are not asking. If you are a projector, like myself, my husband, my oldest daughter, you need the recognition. You need to be invited. So making sure that you are following your strategy, that if you're starting to get a sense of something coming up in the world and you're sending out your intention, you know what it is you want, you've got to allow for whatever that might be to show up. Right? Like if I want to get on podcasts and things, it's not for me to necessarily just go make it happen. But more and more me putting that intention, same thing. It's got to feel kind of like that responding thing, like something has to show up and be able to really have created the space for someone to be able to truly offer me an invitation, to offer you an invitation, right? If you want something, you can't just expect mom to just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to make it happen, unless she has that ability, right? If she knows somebody you're looking for, if she can make the introduction, perfect. That's what you need, are these connections for you to be able to guide others, especially in these times, to be seen and recognize too that if people do not see you, they're not your people. That's okay. And more I've realized I tend to no longer have friends when I just stop getting the invitation. And so more and more I've realized it's not personal. There's just no longer a vibrational match, right? I'm in my world, they're in theirs. You want to have people be in your world, to see you, to really just be able to ask you for your brilliance and to share it, and then want to share you with the world. That's what you're seeking. And so if there is part of this shift in evolution where maybe you're not feeling so seen, it's because you're in a new vibration and you're here to meet more people. You're here to be seen by the right people. You're here to get the invitations that are really going to support you where you want to be, where you want to go. You've got to listen to that, follow it. So same thing, if you are more of a self-projector, you've got to talk it out to hear your truth, to know, is this the right invitation for me? Do I want to accept this or not? If you are more mental, you're going to have to still talk about it, and also just give yourself plenty of time to make sure that you're going to be able to connect and feel in your body what else is coming up. Because even though you're a mental projector, I don't want you up in your head, because it can be a pinball game up there, right? going back and forth on should I do this or should I not do this. So allowing yourself the space, maybe even a meditative state, to be able to connect to your higher source and your higher self, to really know what your truth is. Emotionally, it's the same wave. It's the same ride. You've got to wait to make sure at the top and the bottom it feels really good. And what I find, because we don't have that sacral that we can just listen to, there is a space inside, within the heart, within the body, of expansion when it's like a yes, like it's so freeing, it's light, versus if something feels like really heavy or like constrictive, that's more of your no. And so making sure that if it's already a no at the beginning, you don't need to ride the wave and try and make it become a yes. It's never going to happen. The answer is no. But if at that bottom of your wave, you're already feeling that expansion, and later you give yourself enough time and now you feel even more expansive, that's your truth. That's what you're listening for. As a reflector, I want you to just recognize there's a lot shifting in the world, and you are the reflection of that. So making sure that you are in the right place. And if you are starting to feel bombarded, unhealthy, not necessarily yourself, or not as light and expansive, perhaps you're not in the right place. And giving yourself plenty of time to sit with, at least a lunar cycle, to be able to sit with. Do I need to leave? Is this my community? Where do I want to be? Because you're here. You're here to be the reflection. You're here to show us where we need to make changes. And your gift is so brilliant, and you're so precious, and we need for you to be able to take care of yourself and to be that reflection, to trust your intuition, trust where you're feeling that things aren't working, or this isn't right for you, or these people are not necessarily your right people. It's okay for you to make the big changes only and when you've given yourself the 29 days to really process and to feel it for yourself, to truly connect with the moon in a way that opens you up to feel in your body what your truth is. So again, going back to this planning piece, and I have the planning cross, and I am a financial planner, right? And it's funny because sometimes I would almost think, everyone says I'm this planner, and I don't always like to plan. And sometimes it's true, and sometimes it's not. But really what I want you to recognize is the planning within you. What works for you? Are you more logical and linear, and need things to be structured and orderly? Because we're moving into times where we're going to actually be learning to flow and surrender and trust and receive and be more in that spiritual, right-brained, creative space. And so if that's something new for you, I highly encourage you to play with it, to get acquainted with it now before it just gets faster and faster. Because sometimes, again, if you've got timelines and things that you think have to happen a certain way and a certain time, you may only end up more and more disappointed because you're holding these expectations. It's not about having it happen the way you want. It's about having it happen the way it is meant for you. And that's something I just kind of realized recently with a friend too, as we were tapping, where she was saying something about, was I think bitter maybe from not receiving the results. And I said, well, it's not about not receiving results. I always get results, but not always receiving the results I want. Rather, I was always receiving the results I was meant for. And these are times where everything's evolving and changing. You want to make sure that if you have poor planning, you're not creating this emergency on somebody else's part, right? Just like I was talking about in the beginning, your poor planning is not an emergency on my part, right? Just the same as I need to recognize if I have poor planning, I cannot put that on anybody else. There's already enough on everybody's plate. And so how can we adapt? How can you learn to pivot and truly evolve in a way that's going to support who you are and support those around you? Because everything's changing. You're changing. And that's partly why everything else is changing, is because you are changing so much. You are evolving. You are growing more and more into who you really are. And as you fully dive into your strategy and authority, right, it just opens you up to not give a shit what's going on in the world, and you feeling this sense of, this is where I want to be and where I'm going, and it doesn't match anymore. It doesn't match with these people. It doesn't match with the world. I see something different. I feel something more intuitive within me, and my heart says, go here. And you start listening. That is key. And when you want to dive deeper beneath your strategy and authority to understand your determination, so your diet and your environment and the nourishment from within and without, from your physical side, and understanding more of your mind and how you see the world, what perspective you hold, and how you're motivated to express out, to understand those 4 quadrants, those aspects of the variables in the chart that are beneath the line, that go into the color and the tone and the base, right? There's so much more within the chart. We don't always talk about it, but I'm finding more and more it is so, so important to understand those pieces of you, because they're here to support you. You're here to be supported in a certain way in your diet and in the right environment for you. You hold a certain perspective the world needs just as much as you have awareness and a motivation in which to put it out into the world. We need that. And if for whatever reason you're still actually focusing and putting out the pieces that aren't really you, and it's a different flavor, people can feel that. So now is the time for each and every single one of us to really grow into who we are, to share from our hearts, knowing this is me, this is you, and becoming more accepting, more in love with yourself and with each other. And we begin to shift the world from that place, right? To really come from the heart, to really just send out, project love, instead of all the garbage that we've all had to deal with, most, if not our entire lives. I'm so grateful for you being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for always tuning into who you are and wanting to dive deeper into who you are, because that's how I really do see we shift the world. It starts within you, your individuality, and allowing all of that alignment to come through so that you can have the prosperous life you are designed to have. Many blessings, mwah, and bye for now.